Alright, pilots. This is the A10 twin 64mm ducted fan from Freewing. Got this one off of Motion RC as well. Motion RC is a very good website. They're pretty fast, they're pretty helpful. If there's a problem, they'll usually hook you up and send you some new parts if something shows up bad. Anyways, I just want to talk about how this thing's set up. The instruction manual was a little bit better than the previous F-16 I showed you earlier in the other video. But let's just start off with how the flight controls are set up. You have your twin rudder servos, which are set up in a Y cable, as well as your aileron servos here. They're also set up in a Y configuration. And also, if you want, you don't have to, it's an option, you can put on flaps as well, and you'll see the fully functional flaps come down. Depends on how much throw you want, how much flaps you want. I gave this a little bit more. You can hear my servos barking at me there. I may need to adjust them a little bit more, but I want a little bit more throw, so I put them on the highest setting on the servos. I haven't flown it yet like this. I just adjusted it, and I also actually found out I had a left rolling tendency, and believe it or not, my right flap was down a tiny bit, and that will definitely give you a rolling characteristic because it gives you more lift on one wing than the other. And what I did was, while I was flying, it was just ever so slight. I thought it was wind, but I found out it wasn't, because it did it every time, whether I had wind or not. I just trimmed my ailerons in the air, and then when I brought it down and landed, I noticed, they were up quite a bit, not a lot, but just enough to counteract that right flap. This aileron over here will be up, and this one will be down to roll it to the right. With that said, I've flown this thing 6 times before I fix that flap. I haven't flown it since I fixed that flap. I'll let you know when I fly it again. But when I did land, 2 times it happened out of the 6, and they were different days, of course. When I came in under power, not a lot of power, just a little bit of power, I noticed that this wing would dip down pretty harsh, and all I did to counteract that was just flare out a little bit harder on the elevators. There's another thing that concerns me too about the elevators, and I'll tell you in a second here. But yeah, I would come in, and she would try to, just ever so, right when you get in about ground effect area, which is maybe about right up here, maybe about 12 inches off the ground, nose up, that right wing wanted to dip down pretty hard. And I think it was due to the fact that once I hit ground effect, maybe this aileron, this flap started to get a little bit more lift now that you had the ground effect, and this one may be about the same. And then now I have that right aileron up and left one down, so I have that trimmed to the right, so then it would try to go to the right. So, like I said, the only fix was just, during the flight, was just pull back, because I had plenty of elevator to go, and she just that wing just came back up, she leveled off, and then landed fine. The first time it happened, I had a little bit of rough landing, but it just knocked off there's a centerline tank that goes on here that's magnetic. It just hit that a little bit, and that fell off, no big deal. It's meant to come off, so no harm, no foul. But I did skid my right wing on that first droop. I noticed too. Right wing, I think it might have been my left stab here in the back. Because at any time you hit a surface or hit something a little hard, it's going to bounce back and hit the opposite side. So, with that said, great flying aircraft. I had to trim out the elevators a little bit, which, by the way, I don't think I mentioned the elevators. They are actually one servo in the center compartment in the fuselage, and there's 2 rods coming back and hooking to your horns here. You can adjust the two rods individually, even though they go through the same horn or the same fastening cylinder, or you can adjust them out here. So basically what I did is for the coarse adjustment, I adjusted the rods in here, and then for the fine adjustment I adjusted my what do you call it, the not the horns but the yokes, or clevises, I'm sorry, not yokes, the clevises underneath. I just adjusted those. The one thing I noticed too, this happened, and this could have been my fault, I don't know, or maybe it's just the design of the plane, but I'll have to pick this up and show you. On the bottom here, if you can see this, these rods come super, like if you put the clevises on the control horn, if you put them in the middle or lower, so basically if you want more throw out of your elevator or mid throw, these rods come really close to the fuselage, and what happens is when these rods push back on the horns back here on the surfaces, it'll actually bend. These rods are so close to the fuselage, it actually pushes against the fuselage, and it actually bends the tail up a little bit. Now I know that's probably not the way they designed it, or meant to design it. So the fix was, sorry, I didn't show you the fix. The fix was, all I did was just move them to the outermost horn. And I haven't flown it like this yet, but it's still, if you see, I'm probably way too close to the camera, but as you can see, it's still a pretty good throw. And what I did is I made, on my radio, I gave myself 125% either way. See, that's probably plenty, but it just sucks because, you know, if you have a radio that can't do that, just keep that in mind. You may have to modify this to either come back later, coming out of the fuselage, or I'm not sure. I mean, you could get longer horns, but that's going to make the problem even worse, because, not the problem, but it's going to make the throws even less. Like, the further you go out, that's how it works. On the servo, the further you go out, the more travel you get. On the horn, on the control surface, the further you go out, the less travel you get. So the max travel would be this clevis on the horn all the way closest to the surface, and of course the servo, and all the way at the end of that. So it kind of was weird. I was like, well, you know, let me see if it works by changing it that way, and it did work. It does work fine. And you can see that there's not, if you watch this doesn't move very, I mean, it moves a tiny bit, but barely. Before, this used to flex up pretty good, like maybe a good quarter inch or so. This tail was actually under stress. And the servo, remember it's only one servo, and it's a pretty important servo, it's your elevator servo. You could hear it kind of under stress. Like you'd go like this, and you'd hear it, like, even after you let go, it kind of still was like kind of stuck in transition there. This is fully nose wheel steering capable. It has, as I mentioned before, it's got the flaps, and then it's also got landing gear. I'll show you that in a second here. It does have the landing gear, which is pretty awesome. It's got the landing gear doors. Let me raise it up. And now that I'm here, I'm going to show you that this nose door on one of the hard landings, it did, I don't know if it messed up the door itself or bent the gear maybe, because actually that should have went up further than it did. I don't know why that did that. Let me try that again here. Yeah, that's not right. I'm gonna have to fix that. I think it did bend my gear, because what happens now, let me see and bring this back down. Yeah, I think it pushed my gear over to the left, so I'm gonna have to fix that. Either bend it back or adjust it in such a way that it doesn't do that. But what happens is this door, there's a little cutout right here. When you turn your nose with steering, it almost goes off the edge. Well, I kind of fixed it by moving the spring inside. There's a spring in here that holds the door against the landing gear, so when it goes up, that spring was on the other side, was on the right side. All I did was just move it to the other side, and it seems to pull it closer to this way. But now that I noticed that doesn't go up correctly, I'm gonna have to fix that too. I'm glad I'm doing this video so we can see. I don't know if you can see it. I hope you can. Let me see here. Yeah, that's very, very, very interesting. That is really, really interesting. I will fix that right away. But there's no shock absorbers on these either. That's a little nerve-wracking when you're coming in. You got this plane weighs 59 ounces, which is, you know, pretty hefty. So with no shock absorption, you can see you come down and I mean you're just, you know, it's pretty hard. You know, it's gonna take a beating on the landing gear. So, but now I'll show you the battery. It's a 4-cell Admiral 3600 milliamp 40C battery, and I actually tested out the times of if you had full throttle in their living room, which is not really suggested. If you're gonna do that, get a fan, because the ESCs on here, unlike other aircraft, are not in the tubes. The ESCs are on the bottom here. There's vents here, and they're kind of stacked together. And what happens is, if you're not flying along, they're not getting cool. I don't think I heard anything because I have experience with some electronics here, and I know that they can take a little bit more than you think, but you could have a bad one and maybe burn it out, and then you won't be flying. So I would test fly it first before you do any ground runs, so to speak. Or if you do a ground one, get a pretty decent fan and blow it over those ESCs. And like I said, I got about 2 minutes and 45 seconds out of these these are twin 64s, 40 amp ESCs each. That's drawing a lot of current. So 3600 milliamps will get eaten up pretty quick if you're going full throttle. But you do not have to fly this thing at full throttle. This thing will putt around, flaps down like quarter throttle all day. I set my timer for 4 minutes. Had plenty of power even after 4 minutes. You know, just a couple passes, come in, drop your gear, drop your flaps. She just glides right in. She seems to do a lot better just with a power off landing. Just start really high and just drop her in. She'll drop pretty good because she's heavy. So just drop her right in and flare it out the end. You'll be fine. Like I said, if you do land under power, it can do that too. But again, I had that right rolling tendency. I think it was because of my flap was down further on this side, and I'll let you know when I fly it again. But other than that, it's a great aircraft. Another winner by Freewing. I clocked it in with the wind about 86 miles an hour with one of my radar guns. But other than that, happy flying, and thanks for watching.